Hey all! Welcome to another video in which I'm going to discuss the current video game collecting and reselling market trends. In this video, I will be focusing on the Nintendo 64 console and its games and discuss the games with the biggest changes in value recently. There is some rather surprising information in this video, so be sure to hang out until the end. I'm Brian from Gravy Flips, where we buy, sell, and collect video games, collectibles, and furniture in order to earn some extra profit in our side hustle or to build our video game collections. Before I discuss the current Nintendo 64 market for collecting and reselling, please enter yourself into the sweepstakes that will be held tonight at 10 p.m. on Halloween night to give away this Sega Dreamcast Marvel vs. Capcom game. All you have to do is subscribe and comment the title of the game and you will be entered into the giveaway. I will be shipping it for free. Right now, you have a pretty good chance of winning. As discussed in my last video, the N64 has had some sell-off in the past year or so. In order to give you the most important information, I found a dozen or so of the N64 games with the biggest changes in value since 2022. Most of these have had large drops in value and will surprise you and make you want to either sell your collection before they drop more, or if you're a go-hard, to buy the dip. This video is intended for educational purposes only and should not be the only factor to make any decision for you. For those of you who didn't see the video I posted yesterday with an overall 2023 video game market analysis, I mentioned in the video that the Nintendo 64 was one of several Nintendo consoles that are falling pretty quickly in price. I think the most interesting out of all the console collections and libraries that I talked about was the N64, and that's why I am starting here with my micro market analysis for the N64. So let's get into this data and really see what games are going up and which games are going down in value. Unfortunately, it seems the majority of them are dropping like rocks. We begin our study with Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is a pretty fun game for the N64. I'm only looking at the loose cartridge values of these games. That is because most people, when they buy collections, they find those complete or sealed or graded. N64 games are going to have a different valuation, but for the majority of us, we're using loose cartridges here. Conker's Bad Fur Day had a value of about $140 at its highest point in April 2022. It went down and then went back up to $127 to about $130 for the cartridge in February of this year. But since then, it's been steadily declining to a total of about $100 on the dot. So that is a drop of about $33, and that game's gone down about 33% in value. Moving on to the beloved Zelda Ocarina of Time. This game hit its peak at about $44 for the loose cartridge in February of 2023. Right now, it's dropped down to about $29.92. That means this game has also dropped between 25 and 30%, which is surprising because I thought this game would only be going up in value. Maybe that's because it was put on the Nintendo Switch online collection, but let's move on to the next one. This game here, Goemon's Great Adventure, is a game that when you're buying collections, it's definitely one you want to keep in the back of your mind. It's worth about $100 and $110 normally. In March of 2022, it hit its apex at around $160 just for the loose cartridge. Since then, it's been dropping steadily back down to about $104 where it sits today. This game has dropped almost 40%, doing the numbers roughly off the top of my head, which is a pretty significant drop over the past 12 months. Moving on to another pretty common title, Zelda Majora's Mask with the 3D cover. Was at about $67, $68 in August of 2023, but since then it has dropped down to $51, just under $52. That's a drop of about $16, $17 in value, nearly about 25% of its overall value. So the value of this game seems to be, going up and down, but it seems like it's going to be staying around the $40 to $50 range for the time being. Moving on to one of my more favorite games of the series, I was sad to see that one of the biggest changes was the value in Pokemon Stadium. This is another game that suffers from being put on the Nintendo Switch Online availability, but since April, the value of this game has dropped from $32.50 down to about $24 where it sits today. That's an $8 drop, which is exactly 25% in decrease in price. So I was hoping Pokemon Stadium would go up and stay up forever. It's a great game, it's pretty hard, but now might be the time to sell your cartridge. Moving on to Harvest Moon, this game saw one of the biggest drops out of any of the games that I looked at. It took me a little while to figure out which games had the biggest drops, but Harvest Moon, last year, just the cartridge was selling for about $83.25. That's March of 2022, and the value has dropped to $50.76 where it stands today. So that value dropped over $33, which is almost a 45% drop in value in 1 year, which is quite significant for a loose cartridge game. Another game that suffered quite a bit this year is F-Zero X loose cartridge. In February of 2022, it was selling for about $45 per cartridge. And at the beginning of this year, it dropped down to about $35 per cartridge. And now, in October of 2023, the value of the cartridge is $28.99. So that's a drop of about $10 in a year, or 25 overall percent, which is quite significant. This big change absolutely broke my heart, being a pretty big Castlevania fan. Castlevania Legacy of Darkness is normally a staple grail to look for if you're at garage sales or if you're just into collecting. The cartridge was at its apex at $155 in February of 2022. It dropped to about $140 in February of this year, but since then it's been a straight drop from $140 all the way down to $80, and this seems to be going at an exponential decrease, so I do not know why this game is losing so much value so quickly, but this may be the time to either buy up the cartridges before they go up in value again, or it might be the time to sell your copy to get as much as you can. I personally am considering buying as many of these Castlevania cartridges as I can at $80, because I genuinely do believe that they will go back up to $120, $130, but again, this is just educational and it is not investing advice. Now, talking about one of my favorite games of all time, Mario Kart 64, which was just released on the Nintendo Switch Online feature. I know that probably affected the price to some degree. The Player's Choice version had a value of about $52 at the beginning of this year. The value has since dropped like a rock down to $35.24. That is around a 30% drop in value. Again, I'm just doing that number off the top of my head, but I can see that it went up and then it's dropped back down to its stable price, so this may be the end of an era where N64 games were highly sought after. So, do what you want. Buy the dip on this one or sell. It's up to you. And this is another Nintendo Switch Online casualty. Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards went from $45 in July of 2023 all the way down to $34. In 2 months it's dropped about 25%, which is pretty significant, so I don't know what's going on with this cartridge and why it's dropping so quickly, but this may be the time to buy the dip on this guy. So there you have it. Thank you for joining me on Gravy Flips for another episode. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit like. And if you want to be entered into the sweepstakes that will be taking place tonight, just write Marvel vs. Capcom Sega Dreamcast in the comments below, and I will put you in the sweepstakes in order to get the game sent to you for free if you win. I will be doing more videos on this about reselling, collecting, and trading video games, collectibles, and furniture. And as always, thank you again for joining me, and this is Brian from Gravy Flips. Have a great day.